Before you scroll. Before you dismiss this as another dramatic headline. Take a breath. Because this is not about panic. This is about revelation. Archangel Michael stands at the edge of a truth that has been concealed in your life for years, not in a physical vault, not in a visible document, but in decisions, relationships, and silence. And tonight, something is being uncovered. Not stolen wealth, but misplaced authority. The illusion of loss. You believe something was taken from you. Opportunities. Inheritance. Recognition. Support. Maybe even trust. You felt delayed while others accelerated. You watched doors open for people who did less. You questioned why your effort didn't multiply. Michael speaks calmly. Nothing meant for you can be permanently erased. But what can happen is distraction, misdirection, and misplaced trust. The two trusted figures. The message is not about accusing people. It is about awareness. Sometimes the two people you trust are not villains. They are influences. Advice that weakened your confidence. Voices that redirected your focus. Opinions that delayed your movement. Not intentionally, but effectively. Subtle influence can cost years. Subtle doubt can block momentum. Subtle fear can freeze opportunity. That is the hidden key. Not a literal vault. A mental gate. The 800 trillion symbol. The number is not about currency. It represents potential. Untapped ability. Unclaimed authority. Unrealized leadership. You thought you were behind. But you were being prepared. There is a difference. Preparation feels like delay. Delay feels like loss. But preparation builds capacity. Michael declares. Capacity precedes elevation. You were being expanded. Not robbed. The hidden map. What is the map? Clarity. The pattern of your past. The repeated cycles. The consistent blind spots. The overlooked strengths. When clarity arrives, the map becomes visible. And once visible, you move differently. You trust differently. You invest differently. You respond differently. The real inheritance. Your inheritance is not only financial. It is strategic thinking. Emotional discipline. Patience under pressure. Systems instead of impulse. Influence instead of reaction. That inheritance cannot be stolen. Only neglected. And it is being reactivated. The exposure. Exposure does not mean scandal. It means illumination. You will see who drains you, what distracts you, where you compromise, how you delay yourself. And when you see clearly, you stop leaking power. That is the turning point. The wealth shift. Wealth begins with alignment. Alignment begins with awareness. Awareness begins with honesty. Honesty begins with stillness. And stillness is happening right now. Not because of a timer. Not because of fear. But because you are ready to see what you could not see before. Michael speaks again. Authority returns when confusion ends. Confusion is ending. The real warning. The only real loss is ignoring your growth. The only real theft is self-doubt. The only real enemy is distraction. And tonight, distraction is being dismantled. Not dramatically, but deliberately. Anchor this moment. Before routine takes over again. Before outside voices grow louder. Before you second-guess clarity. Comment this word. Restore. Comment restore because you are reclaiming alignment, authority, and clarity in your life. And if you see a QR code on the screen or a link in the description or comments, you may follow it voluntarily as a symbolic act of planting a seed of faith and protection for your family's future, not out of pressure, but out of intention. Let it represent gratitude. Let it represent alignment. Let it represent your decision to build stability that protects your household from confusion and distraction. If you want part 2 to go deeper into how this hidden map unfolds and how to recognize silent influence around you, say. Continue. Part 2, the map you were never shown. Do not rush this part. Because what is about to unfold is not loud. It is subtle. And subtle truths change lives more than dramatic announcements ever could. Archangel Michael does not shout this time. He reveals. The inheritance was never locked in a vault. It was locked behind patterns. Patterns you did not recognize. Patterns that felt normal. Patterns that quietly shaped your outcomes. The pattern of delay. Look back carefully. How many times were you close to something greater? A promotion almost secured. A partnership almost formed. An investment almost made. A move almost executed. But something interfered. Doubt. Advice. Fear. Distraction. Not disaster. Just interference. Interference is more dangerous than collapse. Because collapse forces action. Interference creates hesitation. And hesitation stretches years. The two trusted voices. Not enemies. Not villains. Voices. Sometimes the trusted voices were. Be realistic. Don't risk too much. Wait a little longer. That's too big for you. Play it safe. They sounded wise. They sounded protective. But wisdom without vision becomes limitation. Protection without growth becomes confinement. Archangel Michael says. Not every protective voice is aligned with your expansion. This is not about cutting people off. It is about separating fear from wisdom. The hidden ledger. The title speaks of a ledger. What is the ledger? Your decisions. Every time you chose small over prepared. Every time you stayed silent instead of stepping forward. Every time you delayed what you were capable of. That ledger recorded missed momentum. Not to condemn you. But to show you the cost of hesitation. And now it is being reviewed. Not by punishment. By clarity. The illusion of theft. You felt something was stolen. But what was taken? Time. Confidence. Momentum. Not by force. By suggestion. The wealth you speak of, the 800 trillion, is symbolic. It represents years of untapped earning power. Years of unrealized leadership. Years of suppressed potential. That is the real treasure. And it was paused. Not erased. Paused. The exposure phase. Exposure is uncomfortable. Because it requires ownership. Ownership of decisions you postponed. Risks you avoided. Conversations you delayed. Skills you ignored. Archangel Michael speaks firmly. What you face cannot control you. Facing the pattern breaks it. Ignoring it repeats it. This is the turning point. Not a countdown. A realization. The wealth equation. Wealth is not magic. It is structured behavior multiplied over time. Confidence plus skill plus strategy plus patience. Remove one of those and growth slows. Add them intentionally and growth compounds. You were missing alignment. Now alignment is forming. The real map. The hidden map reveals 3 routes. The route of reaction. Emotion-driven decisions. Short-term relief. Long-term instability. The route of hesitation. Endless planning. Fear disguised as wisdom. Opportunity drifting away. The route of strategic action. Calculated movement. Skill expansion. System building. Consistency. You now see the difference. Seeing it changes everything. The breaking of influence. The moment you recognize a limiting voice, its control weakens. The moment you detect hesitation disguised as caution, its power fades. The moment you understand your capacity, your authority returns. Michael declares. Authority was never removed. It was surrendered. You are reclaiming it. The shift in identity. You are no longer the one who waits for approval. The one who hesitates under pressure. The one who doubts potential. You are becoming the one who calculates and moves. The one who invests in skill. The one who builds systems. The one who leads decisions. That identity shift is the real inheritance. The warning hidden in the title. The warning is not supernatural. It is practical. If you ignore clarity now, the same cycle repeats. If you apply clarity now, momentum compounds. This is the real urgency. Not seconds. Cycles. Cycles either break or repeat. The reclamation. You do not need to chase wealth. You need to align behavior. When behavior aligns, income increases. Influence expands. Stability grows. Confidence stabilizes. The inheritance begins to manifest through disciplined action. Anchor this revelation. Before routine pulls you back. Before old voices regain influence. Before hesitation feels safe again. Comment this word. Claim. Comment claim because you are reclaiming authority over your patterns, your decisions, and your direction. And if you notice a QR code on the screen or a link in the description or comments, you may follow it voluntarily as a symbolic act of planting a seed of protection and clarity for your family's future. Not from fear. Not from pressure. But from intention. Let it represent your commitment to build disciplined stability that shields your household from distraction and hesitation. In the next part, we will go deeper into how silent financial patterns operate inside families, and how they quietly transfer from one generation to the next. If you are ready to continue, say. Continue. Part 3, the generational code you were never taught. Stay with this carefully. Because this is where the surface message ends. And the real depth begins. Archangel Michael does not speak about vaults or dramatic countdowns here. He speaks about inheritance in its truest form. Wealth is not first transferred through money. It is transferred through mindset. And mindset travels silently through generations. The unseen family script. Every family carries an invisible script. Not written on paper. Written in behavior. Statements like, money is hard to keep. Rich people are different. We are not that kind of family. Play small so you don't lose. Security matters more than growth. These phrases seem harmless. But repeated over decades, they become identity. Identity becomes action. Action becomes outcome. Outcome becomes family tradition. And tradition becomes destiny, unless interrupted. The 800 trillion symbol explained. The number is not literal. It represents compounded generational potential. Imagine if your grandparents had structured investments. Your parents had financial literacy. You had mentorship at 18. Risk was taught wisely. Opportunity was encouraged early. The compounding over 3 generations would be extraordinary. That is the symbolic inheritance. Not money hidden somewhere. But capacity delayed. Archangel Michael declares. You are not the first in your line to desire change. You are the first prepared to execute it. The 2 trusted influences, revisited. Sometimes those 2 trusted voices are not individuals. They are inherited beliefs. Beliefs like stability equals safety. Risk equals danger. Ambition equals arrogance. Leadership equals pride. If those were passed down repeatedly, you may have unknowingly honored limitation. Not rebellion. Just repetition. This is how generational ceilings form. The breaking point. Breaking a generational pattern feels uncomfortable. Because you are not just adjusting behavior. You are challenging identity. When you invest differently, plan differently, speak differently, think long-term instead of short-term, it may feel unfamiliar. But unfamiliar does not mean wrong. It means new. The silent financial drain. Many households do not collapse financially. They stagnate. Stagnation looks safe. But over decades, stagnation costs more than risk ever could. Inflation rises. Opportunity moves. Markets evolve. Skills shift. Without adaptation, income plateaus. Plateaus become ceilings. Ceilings become barriers. And barriers feel permanent. Until someone recognizes the pattern. The map inside the household. Look closely. How are decisions made in your home? Emotionally. Strategically. Collectively. Individually. Are goals documented? Are savings automated? Are skills upgraded yearly? Or is everything reactive? Reaction builds stress. Structure builds strength. Archangel Michael says, structure is spiritual discipline expressed through planning. Discipline is not restriction. It is protection. The real exposure. The exposure is not about accusing family. It is about awakening awareness. You may have inherited fear of loss, hesitation around growth, avoidance of opportunity, discomfort with visibility. These are not curses. They are habits. Habits can be replaced. The turning point. When you become aware, you stand at a fork. Continue repeating the script. Or rewrite it. Rewriting requires learning financial literacy, developing investment awareness, improving income skills, building emergency reserves, planning multi-year strategies. This is not dramatic. It is deliberate. And deliberate beats dramatic every time. The emotional resistance. Change often triggers resistance. Not because people want you to fail. But because growth shifts dynamics. When one person rises, others must adapt. Adaptation is uncomfortable. But growth demands it. Archangel Michael declares, lead gently. But do not retreat. You can honor family while still evolving. The compounding effect. Imagine 10 years of consistent investing, consistent skill growth, consistent disciplined saving, consistent strategic planning. The compounding effect becomes undeniable. Not sudden wealth. Sustained stability. And sustained stability is harder to destroy. The wealth that cannot be stolen. When you build financial literacy, emotional discipline, strategic thinking, consistent habits, no one can steal that. That is internal inheritance. An internal inheritance creates external expansion. The real alert. The real alert is this. If you ignore awareness now, the script continues. If you act on awareness now, the script changes. This is not about seconds. It is about decades. Decades shift when one person chooses differently. You may be that person. Anchor this shift. Before comfort whispers again. Before old phrases resurface. Before hesitation feels familiar. Comment this word. Rewrite. Comment rewrite because you are choosing to rewrite the financial and mental script of your lineage. And if you see a QR code on the screen or a link in the description or comments, you may follow it voluntarily as a symbolic act of planting a seed of intention for your household's future. Not from pressure. Not from fear. But from commitment. Let it represent your decision to build discipline, stability, and protect your family from repeating cycles of limitation. In the next part, we will examine how invisible emotional patterns silently affect income and opportunity, and how breaking them unlocks momentum. If you are ready, say. Continue. Part 4, The Invisible Emotions Controlling Your Income. Stay focused here. Because this part is not about money directly. It is about emotion. And emotion, when unexamined, quietly controls financial outcomes. Archangel Michael speaks with steady clarity. Your income does not rise above your emotional tolerance. That sentence alone explains more than years of confusion. The emotional ceiling. Every person has an emotional ceiling. A level of success they feel comfortable holding. Beyond that level, something strange happens. Self-sabotage. Overspending. Missed deadlines. Poor decisions. Unnecessary risks. Unexplained hesitation. Not because they lack intelligence. But because their nervous system is unfamiliar with higher responsibility. Higher income brings more visibility. More expectations. More pressure. More accountability. If you subconsciously associate pressure with danger, you will shrink. Not consciously. Emotionally. The fear of responsibility. Sometimes the wallet stays empty not from lack of effort, but from fear of responsibility. More money means people may ask for help. Family may depend on you. Decisions become larger. Mistakes feel heavier. If your early experiences taught you that responsibility equals stress, you may avoid elevation. Archangel Michael declares, you do not fear wealth. You fear what wealth demands. That is the invisible truth. The guilt pattern. Another silent emotional pattern. Guilt. If your family struggled. If your friends still struggle. If your environment normalized limitation. Success can feel like betrayal. You may unconsciously shrink to remain relatable. You may avoid rising too fast. You may hesitate at opportunities. Not because you are incapable. Because you are loyal. But loyalty to limitation prevents legacy. Growth does not abandon others. Growth equips you to elevate wisely. The identity trap. Your identity determines your income more than your effort does. If you see yourself as just average, not business-minded, not leadership material, bad with money, you will behave accordingly. Even when opportunity appears. Identity filters perception. Perception filters action. Action filters outcome. Michael speaks firmly. Change the identity. The income follows. The scarcity reflex. If you grew up hearing, we can't afford that. That's too expensive. Money disappears quickly. Be careful, everything can collapse. Your nervous system may associate money with instability. So when you earn more, you spend quickly. Or hoard anxiously. Or make impulsive moves. Scarcity reflex creates instability even in abundance. Stability requires emotional regulation. The emotional upgrade. To break the ceiling. Practice receiving calmly. Increase responsibility gradually. Separate wealth from guilt. Build systems so money does not rely on mood. Upgrade your self-image intentionally. When emotion stabilizes, income expands sustainably. The hidden map revisited. The map is not external. It is internal. The map shows where you hesitate, where you feel unworthy, where you shrink, where you overreact. And once visible, you cannot unsee it. That is power. The real exposure. The message was never about someone stealing your billions. It was about you unconsciously blocking yourself. Not from laziness. From emotional programming. That programming can be rewritten. And you are rewriting it now. The long-term shift. Imagine operating with calm under pressure, confidence in decision-making, comfort with responsibility, strategic patience, clear identity. Your financial behavior would transform. Opportunities would feel natural instead of threatening. Responsibility would feel empowering instead of heavy. This is the real inheritance. Emotional mastery. The authority return. Archangel Michael affirms. When your emotions align with expansion, resistance dissolves. You do not need dramatic rescue. You need emotional alignment. Once aligned, growth accelerates quietly. The compound effect of stability. 5 years of emotional stability produces better partnerships, better investments, better negotiations, better discipline, better resilience. Resilience protects wealth more than sudden opportunity ever could. The real alert. If you ignore this emotional layer, the same cycle repeats at higher levels. If you address it, the ceiling disappears. This is the shift. Not external drama. Internal upgrade. Anchor the upgrade. Before old emotions reclaim control. Before guilt resurfaces. Before scarcity whispers again. Comment this word. Elevate. Comment elevate because you are raising your emotional capacity to match your financial potential. And if you notice a QR code on the screen or a link in the description or comments, you may follow it voluntarily as a symbolic act of planting a seed of stability and protection for your family's future. Not out of urgency. Not out of fear. But as a declaration that your household will operate from emotional strength and disciplined clarity. In the next part, we will go even deeper into how silent agreements in relationships either multiply wealth, or quietly drain it. If you are ready to continue, say. Continue. Part 5, The Silent Agreements That Decide Your Future. Do not underestimate this part. Because most financial destinies are not destroyed by enemies. They are redirected by agreements. Agreements you never consciously signed. Agreements formed in conversation. In loyalty. In comfort. In fear. In love. Archangel Michael speaks with weight. What you tolerate becomes your contract. And contracts, even silent ones, shape outcomes. The unspoken agreement in relationships. Every close relationship carries a financial atmosphere. Some are built on growth. Some are built on survival. Some are built on avoidance. Ask yourself. When money is discussed, is there calm, or tension? When opportunity appears, is there support, or subtle resistance? When risk is mentioned, is there strategic conversation, or emotional shutdown? These reactions reveal agreements. If both people subconsciously agree, let's not outgrow our circle. Growth slows. If both agree, let's avoid uncomfortable conversations. Planning weakens. If both agree, let's spend now and figure it out later. Stability disappears. No villain. Just alignment, in the wrong direction. The agreement of comfort. Comfort feels safe. But comfort resists expansion. If you and those around you value comfort above growth, you will unconsciously choose predictable income over scalable income. Immediate pleasure over long-term investment. Familiar routine over calculated change. Archangel Michael declares. Comfort is not wrong. But it cannot lead. Comfort can accompany growth. It cannot control it. The agreement of silence. Some households never talk about money. Not because they do not care. Because they fear tension. Silence becomes agreement. Agreement becomes stagnation. Stagnation becomes frustration. Frustration becomes blame. Blame weakens trust. And trust is the foundation of multiplication. Without open conversation, there is no shared strategy. Without shared strategy, there is no unified growth. The agreement of scarcity. If two people repeatedly say, "Things are tight. It's risky. We should wait. Maybe next year." Scarcity becomes shared identity. Shared identity shapes decisions. Decisions shape trajectory. Trajectory becomes destiny. And destiny feels accidental. But it was negotiated silently. The agreement of growth. Now imagine a different alignment. When opportunity appears, both say, "Let's analyze it." When risk appears, both say, "Let's calculate it." When income increases, both say, "Let's structure it." When challenge appears, both say, "Let's solve it." That agreement multiplies momentum. Alignment accelerates growth faster than effort alone. The influence of environment. Even outside intimate relationships, there are agreements. Friends who normalize complaining. Peers who mock ambition. Communities that discourage expansion. If you consistently remain in environments that minimize vision, you unconsciously shrink. Not to fit in. To belong. Belonging is powerful. But belonging without growth becomes confinement. The breaking of weak agreements. Breaking agreements does not mean confrontation. It means conscious shift. It means asking better questions. It means initiating structured conversations. It means documenting goals together. It means redefining normal. Archangel Michael says, "Raise the standard gently, but raise it consistently." You do not need to argue. You need to elevate calmly. The partnership multiplier. When two aligned people build together, discipline doubles. Ideas multiply. Mistakes are reduced. Perspective expands. Momentum accelerates. Misaligned partnerships drain energy. Aligned partnerships create exponential effect. This applies to marriage, business, friendship, family. Alignment is the true inheritance key. The real exposure. The exposure in your life may not be betrayal. It may be misalignment. Misalignment in values, vision, planning, risk tolerance, communication. Once exposed, you can address it. Ignored misalignment compounds quietly. Addressed misalignment transforms direction. The long-term impact. 10 years of aligned agreements produces structured wealth, emotional stability, strategic confidence, reduced conflict, clear direction. 10 years of unspoken agreements produces confusion, plateau, resentment, financial strain, emotional fatigue. This is the true crossroads. The authority shift. You do not need to accuse. You need to lead. Leadership in relationships begins with clarity, consistency, calm communication, documented goals, mutual accountability. Archangel Michael affirms, where alignment exists, acceleration follows. Anchor alignment in relationships. Before comfort overrides growth. Before silence returns. Before scarcity language reappears. Comment this word. Align. Comment align because you are choosing agreements that multiply stability instead of draining it. And if you notice a QR code on the screen or a link in the description or comments, you may follow it voluntarily as a symbolic act of planting a seed of unity and protection for your household's future. Not from pressure. Not from urgency. But from intentional alignment. Let it represent your commitment to build partnerships rooted in clarity, structure, and long-term protection for your family. In the next part, we will uncover how decision speed, not just decision quality, determines whether opportunity compounds or disappears. If you are ready, say. Continue. Part 6, The speed of your decisions is shaping your destiny. Stay present for this. Because this is where many people quietly lose momentum, not through bad decisions, but through slow ones. Archangel Michael speaks with steady intensity. Opportunity respects preparation, but it rewards decisiveness. Most people believe success is about choosing perfectly. It is not. It is about choosing wisely, and choosing on time. The hidden cost of delay. There is a difference between patience and hesitation. Patience is strategic. Hesitation is emotional. Patience gathers data. Hesitation seeks comfort. Patience moves when ready. Hesitation moves when forced. Look back at your past 5 years. How many decisions were postponed? Investments researched endlessly but never executed. Ideas refined endlessly but never launched. Conversations needed but never initiated. Plans drafted but never implemented. Not because you lacked intelligence. Because you waited for certainty. Certainty rarely arrives. Clarity does. The decision window. Every opportunity has a window. Not a countdown. But a season. Markets shift. Industries evolve. Skills become outdated. Relationships change. Circumstances move. If your decision speed is slower than change itself, you feel left behind. Archangel Michael declares. Delay compounds as powerfully as discipline. If discipline compounds growth, delay compounds regret. The fear behind slow decisions. Slow decisions often hide fear of loss, fear of embarrassment, fear of failure, fear of responsibility, fear of visibility. The mind disguises fear as analysis. You call it research. You call it preparation. You call it waiting for the right time. But sometimes it is avoidance. And avoidance has a cost. The emotional tolerance of movement. Fast decisions do not mean reckless decisions. They mean emotionally stable decisions. You gather enough information. You assess risk. You calculate potential. And then you move. People who move consistently build momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence increases capacity. Capacity attracts opportunity. Opportunity multiplies wealth. The cycle begins. The myth of perfect timing. There is no perfect time. There is alignment and readiness. When skill meets opportunity, timing feels right. But if skill is underdeveloped, opportunity feels intimidating. So you wait. Archangel Michael speaks. Upgrade your readiness. Do not wait for perfection. Readiness creates confidence. Confidence accelerates action. The cost of overthinking. Overthinking drains energy. It creates imaginary scenarios. It magnifies unlikely risks. It minimizes realistic gains. And it delays forward movement. Imagine if, 5 years ago, you had acted on one key opportunity. Even modest growth compounded over years becomes significant. Time multiplies both action and inaction. The wealth of decisiveness. Financial stability often grows not from one massive leap, but from many small, decisive moves. Opening an investment account. Learning a high-value skill. Negotiating salary confidently. Starting a side venture. Automating savings. Reducing unnecessary debt. None of these require drama. They require movement. And movement requires decision speed. The internal authority. When you decide quickly and responsibly, something shifts inside you. Authority strengthens. Self-trust grows. Self-trust is more valuable than external validation. Archangel Michael declares. Trust yourself under pressure, and you will not be easily shaken. Decision speed strengthens self-trust. Self-trust strengthens leadership. Leadership multiplies opportunity. The generational effect. Slow decision patterns pass down quietly. Children observe hesitation. They absorb caution. They mimic delay. But when they observe, calm evaluation, confident execution, responsible risk-taking, they internalize courage. That changes their trajectory. Your decision speed today influences their future stability. The balance. This is not a call for impulsiveness. It is a call for structured decisiveness. Gather facts. Consult wisely. Calculate risk. Set timeline. Act. Movement builds clarity faster than endless planning ever will. The compounding power of action. 10 years of consistent, timely decisions produces expanded income, strengthened confidence, reduced fear, strategic momentum, clear direction. 10 years of hesitation produces missed windows, reduced confidence, increased doubt, emotional fatigue. This is the fork. The real turning point. You do not need a miracle. You need movement. Not reckless. Not dramatic. Intentional. Consistent. Timely. Archangel Michael affirms. Your breakthrough is not hidden. It is waiting for your decision. Anchor this shift. Before analysis becomes avoidance again. Before comfort delays growth. Before fear disguises itself as caution. Comment this word. Move. Comment move because you are choosing disciplined, timely action over hesitation. And if you notice a QR code on the screen or a link in the description or comments, you may follow it voluntarily as a symbolic act of planting a seed of decisiveness and protection for your household's future. Not out of pressure. Not out of urgency. But as a declaration that your family will not remain stuck in hesitation. Let it represent forward motion. Let it represent structured courage. Let it represent your commitment to build stability through action. In the next part, we will uncover how consistency, not intensity, determines whether momentum becomes lasting wealth or fades into memory. If you are ready, say. Continue. Part 7, Consistency, the force that outlasts excitement. Do not underestimate this part. Because this is where most journeys collapse. Not in crisis. Not in betrayal. Not in loss. But in inconsistency. Archangel Michael speaks with grounded authority. Intensity begins momentum. Consistency preserves it. You have already seen patterns. You have seen emotional ceilings. You have seen hesitation. You have seen silent agreements. You have seen delayed decisions. Now comes the hardest truth. Even clarity fades without repetition. The problem with intensity. Intensity feels powerful. You feel motivated. Focused. Determined. Inspired. You change habits quickly. You cut distractions. You create plans. You feel unstoppable. But intensity is emotional fuel. And emotion fluctuates. If your growth depends on emotion, your stability depends on mood. And mood is unstable. That is why so many people start strong, stop quietly, restart later, repeat the cycle. Not because they lack intelligence. Because they lacked rhythm. The power of rhythm. Consistency is rhythm. Rhythm does not shout. It repeats. Daily. Weekly. Monthly. Yearly. The most financially stable households are not the most dramatic. They are the most repetitive. Savings repeated. Learning repeated. Tracking repeated. Reviewing repeated. Adjusting repeated. Repetition creates reliability. Reliability creates stability. Stability creates trust. Trust creates expansion. The 5-year reality. Imagine 5 years of reading 20 minutes daily. Investing monthly without interruption. Upgrading one skill per year. Reviewing finances quarterly. Documenting goals annually. None of this feels dramatic. But 5 years of rhythm builds capacity that intensity never could. Intensity spikes. Consistency compounds. The emotional resistance to consistency. Why do people struggle with consistency? Because it feels boring. There is no applause. No dramatic breakthrough every week. No visible explosion of success. Just quiet repetition. Archangel Michael declares. The quietest builders create the strongest foundations. Foundation is not glamorous. But foundation determines survival. The danger of motivation addiction. Some people chase inspiration constantly. They need a new video. A new speech. A new warning. A new alert. A new dramatic promise. But real stability does not need constant emotional stimulation. It needs discipline. If you always require external excitement to move, your internal discipline weakens. Discipline grows when you act without emotional hype. The wealth curve of consistency. Financial growth often looks like this. Flat. 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 Small rise. Flat. Flat. Another rise. Then gradual acceleration. It rarely looks like an explosion. The explosion is usually the result of years of quiet repetition. What people call overnight success is usually 5 to 10 years of invisible consistency. The identity of a consistent person. Consistent people. Track progress even when tired. Save even when income fluctuates. Learn even when busy. Review plans even when distracted. Stay calm even when pressured. Consistency becomes identity. Identity becomes stability. Stability becomes confidence. Confidence attracts opportunity. The compounding of character. It is not just money that compounds. Character compounds. Patience compounds. Resilience compounds. Discipline compounds. Emotional control compounds. 5 years of controlled reactions changes how people perceive you. 10 years of structured behavior changes how opportunities find you. This is not mystical. It is behavioral mathematics. The breaking of the old cycle. Your old cycle may have been emotion. Burst. Pause. Drop. Regret. Restart. Now you shift to plan. Act. Track. Adjust. Repeat. No drama. Just rhythm. Archangel Michael says. Make repetition your ally, and time becomes your partner. Time either works for you or against you. Consistency decides. The real alert. The real danger is not missing one opportunity. It is abandoning rhythm. If you stay consistent, small improvements become significant transformation. If you quit rhythm, even great opportunities fade. Consistency protects growth. Growth protects stability. Stability protects legacy. The generational impact. Children raised in consistent households develop confidence, security, predictability, emotional regulation, financial literacy. They learn that effort produces results. Not instantly, but reliably. Reliability builds trust. Trust builds courage. Courage builds expansion. The truth about long-term wealth. Long-term wealth is not dramatic. It is disciplined. It is repetitive. It is structured. It is protected by systems. And systems require maintenance. Maintenance requires consistency. This is the part few talk about. But this is the part that determines everything. Anchor the rhythm. Before boredom interrupts you. Before emotion tries to lead again. Before discipline feels unnecessary. Comment this word. Consistent. Comment consistent because you are choosing rhythm over intensity, discipline over hype, and stability over fluctuation. And if you notice a QR code on the screen or a link in the description or comments, you may follow it voluntarily as a symbolic act of planting a seed of consistency and protection for your household's future. Not because of pressure. Not because of fear. But because you are committing to structured repetition that shields your family from instability. Let it represent rhythm. Let it represent discipline. Let it represent long-term security built quietly. In the next part, we will uncover how protection works, not as superstition, but as structured prevention that guards what you build. If you are ready, say. Continue. Part 8, Protection is not mystical. It is structural. Now we enter the part most people misunderstand. Protection is not about fear. It is not about superstition. It is not about reacting to imagined threats. Archangel Michael speaks with calm authority. What is structured is protected. What is disciplined is defended. You do not protect wealth with emotion. You protect it with systems. And the absence of systems is where most households quietly leak strength. The illusion of safety. Many people feel safe simply because nothing dramatic is happening. No crisis. No emergency. No visible threat. But safety without structure is temporary. True protection is not visible. It is prepared. It exists before trouble appears. The 5 layers of structural protection. If you build these 5 layers, you reduce vulnerability significantly. Financial protection: emergency reserves. Insurance coverage. Diversified income. Documented assets. Clear beneficiary planning. Legal protection: updated documents. Clear ownership. Written agreements. Transparent records. Emotional protection: calm decision-making. Conflict resolution. Transparent communication. Skill protection: ongoing learning. Adaptability. Market awareness. Relational protection: aligned partnerships. Shared goals. Mutual accountability. Protection is not panic. It is preparation. It is reinforcement. Reviewing finances monthly reinforces awareness. Automating savings reinforces growth. Updating plans annually reinforces clarity. Learning continuously reinforces adaptability. Protection requires maintenance. Maintenance requires rhythm. Rhythm requires identity. Identity requires commitment. The generational shield. When you protect structurally, your children inherit stability. They observe preparedness, calm, strategic thinking, documentation, consistency. They learn protection by watching repetition, not by hearing warnings. That is how generational stability forms. The real alert. The real danger is not hidden enemies. It is neglected preparation. The real exposure is not betrayal. It is weak systems. The real protection is not dramatic defense. It is disciplined structure. Archangel Michael affirms. Build so well that panic has no entry. That is the highest level of protection. Anchor the shield. Before comfort says, it's fine. Before routine says, later. Before distraction says, not urgent. Comment this word. Protect. Comment protect because you are choosing structured stability over accidental security. And if you notice a QR code on the screen or a link in the description or comments, you may follow it voluntarily as a symbolic act of planting a seed of structured protection and long-term clarity for your household. Not from urgency. Not from fear. But from intentional preparation. Let it represent reinforcement. Let it represent wisdom. Let it represent your commitment to shield what you build. In the next part, we move beyond protection and into permanence, how to design systems that not only defend stability, but multiply it across decades. If you are ready, say Amen.